I thought I would show you how to make this Christmas star ornament. And this is really easy to make. You make it from your stash of supplies. All it takes is a couple of sheets of complimentary cardstock and some scoring and some embellishments that you can find, and it's easy as that. Now, I adapted this from another technique that does the same sort of thing using fabric. And I got thinking, well, if you can make it in fabric, why can't you make it in paper? So I did, with a couple of little minor tweaks to it. So I'm going to show you how to do this. So first of all, what you're going to need is a couple of sheets of 12 by 12 cardstock, and you're going to cut two different colors and anything that looks Christmassy. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christmas paper. Double-sided doesn't hurt, but that doesn't really matter either. And cut your strips, 2 strips of each color, 4 inches by 12 inches. So really simple to put it in your paper trimmer and do that. And as I said, you need 2 strips in one color, 2 strips in the other color. Then you're going to do some scoring. Now, you can do scoring in a number of ways. I'm going to use my scoreboard for this. And I'm just going to get out my bone folder. And what you're going to do is you're going to score 3 lines on each strip and decide which side you want to appear on your star. So there's an inside and an outside sort of thing. This will become clear when we're done. So this is the side I want people to see. So I'm just going to flip it over and I'm going to score it at the 1-inch mark. And be careful when you're using a scoreboard. You don't have to score really heavy. A second line at the 2-inch mark, and the last one at the 3-inch mark. And you're going to do that with all of your strips. So 1 inch. Now the reason why I say don't press too hard is depending on the quality of the cardstock or the thickness of the cardstock that you have, you could rip it, and we don't want to do that. Now this is the side I want to appear on my second color, so I'm just going to flip it over. And again, just lightly score. Better a couple of light strokes than one heavy one. So at the 1, 2, and 3-inch mark. Now if you don't have a scoreboard, don't worry. You can simply do this with a bone folder or the edges of your scissors and a ruler. Just mark off 1 inch, 2 inch, and 3 inch, and away you go. Okay, that is done. So now what we're going to do with our strips, we're going to fold them along those score lines. And this is where you might want to have a bone folder handy because it gives a nice crisp fold. And just fold along your score lines. And I see that I think I've got that one off a little bit. I do. But not a problem. It's just paper. It bends. And first I'm scoring it at the, or I'm folding it at the middle score line. I think I got that off. Let me just check my lines. Yeah, I didn't score that heavy enough. So I'm just going to adjust, because this should be halfway. Now you could, without scoring this, fold the paper, but I find scoring it gives you a nice crisper fold, and it's a little bit easier. And then you're going to fold it along the score lines that were at the 1 and 3-inch mark. So in a sense you've got a trifold here. Now fold that in half. So you're making a strip that's approximately 1 inch or 1.25 inches. I'm not sure. Let's measure it and see. Yeah, it's 1 inch. A 1-inch strip. Now you don't want to do this with just a 1-inch strip of paper because it'll be too flimsy. So open it back up, and on one side, just down the center, put a strip of glue. Now this could be wet glue. I find it's easier to use a tape runner, or you could use double-sided tape. Whatever you have on hand will work. Again, I'm having a little trouble with this one because I didn't score it well enough, so my folding is a little off, and I want to keep it pretty even. So I'm going to make the paper obey me. Yes! Might have to be a little brutal. Okay, then take that strip and just fold it in half. I find putting the bone folder in that fold makes it easy, and just flatten it out using your bone folder. Now that's what I'm going to do to all of these pieces, and I'll be back when I have it completed. Okay, so you have your 4 strips folded now, and you have them folded in half. Now we're going to weave them together. So what you do is you take one of your colored strips, and we're going to call this part the open part, and we're going to call the fold the closed part. And so we're going to turn the open part so it's at the top of the one green strip, and on this strip we're going to have the closed part, the fold, at the top here. So we have opened and opened, fold and fold. Now we're going to take one of our red strips, and we're going to take the folded edge, and we're going to place the 2 parts of the green one inside that fold, and then the open end of that red strip is going to go in between the other part. Now this is where you're going to have to hold things down with your hands, because if your cardstock is as stiff as mine, it's going to spring open. So this is what we have so far. So we're going to take the last strip, and with the closed part to the left, which is the fold, we're going to take that and we're going to slip the green strip underneath, and then in between the 2 gray strips. I'm having trouble getting these apart because my fingers are not cooperating. Okay, let's open up here. Oh, sorry, that is the closed end. So you just have to get this part pried apart and slip these 2 tails into the inside of this. Okay, I made that look more difficult than it really should be. So now we're just going to adjust it so that the folded ends snug up against each of the strips, and this essentially is going to lock it down. So we just adjust it and pull everything up to the fold, and you want to pull it fairly firmly but not warp your paper, so you get this nice checkerboard center. Okay, now you're going to flip this over, take your top strip, fold it down, take the left strip, fold it over. Now you're only using one half of the strip, and you're going around in a counterclockwise direction. When you come to the last strip, you're going to tuck it inside of this one, and this is what's going to lock it. Now this is a little tricky. You might want to use your bone folder on this just to get it opened up a little bit so you have room to stick the other strip through, and then adjust everything by pulling everything tight. Now yes, you're going to have strips that are uneven, and that is okay. So give it a good tug to get everything in there snug, because you're not using any glue on this. This is what's holding it together. And then just flip it over and make sure everything is snug on this side. And what I like to do after I've done this part is just simply take my bone folder and just give it a crease all over. Just helps to keep everything very snug. If you don't have a bone folder, the edge of your scissors will work as well. Okay, so this is what it looks like at the moment. Actually, that could kind of make a nice little thing for another project, but that's not where we're stopping. Okay, you're going to take one of the strips that's hanging out, and you're just going to fold it diagonally so it lines up, you see here, with the edge. Hope you can see that, the edge of that little square. And we're going to use our bone folder just to press down on this because we're making a crease. And we want to be able to see that crease. Now we're going to take our scissors, we're going to open that fold up, and you should be able to see a crease right inside there. And for the sake of the video, I'm just going to take a pen or marker, and I'm just going to mark inside of that. Hope you can see that. So I've got a diagonal line right here, and that's the line I'm going to cut on. And I'm just going to use my scissors, and I'm going to cut that part that we marked with the line off. So there we have our first point of a star. So we're going to turn it counterclockwise to the next shorter piece, and we're going to do the same thing. Fold it over, give it a good crease so you'll be able to see the line. And I'm not going to mark it with my pen, I just did that to show you. And I just get my scissors in there, and there's my next point. Let's do it one more time. Fold it diagonally so that it snugs up to that square. I'll move my hand out of the way here in just a second. I'm giving it a good press so I can see the crease. So I've got something that looks like that. Well, not something, it does look like that. Open it up, and along that creased line, I'm just going to trim it. And let's do this one more time. I want to make sure you can see exactly how to do this. And there we have 4 of our points. Now all we have to do is just flip it over, and we're going to do the same thing with the longer pieces. And it doesn't matter whether you start with the longer pieces or the shorter pieces, it'll all work out the same. So we've made our crease line, and I'm just trimming it. And one more time. And then I'm going to turn the video off, and I'm going to show you what to do next. So I've got my crease line, snip, and so you see how we're going here. So I have 2 more to do. I'll do those, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I have my star formed right now, and it looks just like that on both sides. You don't have to worry about these points opening up because we put a glue strip down the center of that, and that will keep that secured. But what I want to do is just add a little dimension to this. So I'm just going to grab some ink and an ink applicator, and I'm just going to go all the way around the points with this to give it sort of a shadow effect. You can use any color that you want. I grabbed the first thing that was close at hand, which was Distress Oxide, and it was the Fired Brick red color. It's going to depend on what color your paper is and how much you want this to show up. I just want to get rid of the white edges and just give it a little bit of a shadow effect, and I'm doing it on both sides because this might twirl around if you're using it as a Christmas decoration. So you want both sides to look nice. Now, one thing you could do with these, you could make them into little toppers for Christmas presents, or you could put this in as a card, an embellishment on the outside of a card. That would look very nice. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just going over the folded edges lightly. Again, I'm just giving the whole thing a little bit of a distressed look with the ink. It's totally up to you. It's your personal preference. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I grabbed myself some twine, and this is actually waxed thread, but you can use whatever you've got, and a large darning needle with a big eye for this because I have trouble threading things, and my pokey tool. And what I want to do is create a string so I can hang this from a tree branch on my Christmas tree. Now, if you're going to put it on top of a Christmas present, you might not want to do this. And you can basically put this hole wherever you want. You could put it here, and so your star would hang like that. I'm just going to do it right here in between these two folds, and I'm just going to very carefully make sure I'm not too close to the edge, but just enough so there'd be support, and I'm just twisting my pokey tool, or an awl, through this, making a hole big enough to accept my thread. So I have my hole here. And I'm just going to take a length of this, if I can find the end of it, and I can't. And as I said, it doesn't have to be waxed thread. Let me grab another spool. Here, this one I can see the end better. And I'm just taking off about, I like to give a generous amount so I can tie a knot in it, so maybe about 16 inches approximately. And I'm taking my darning needle. And again, the way you thread this is totally up to you. It'll depend on what you're using, but because I'm using a fairly thick twine, I'm using a large holed needle, and I'm just going to slip that through the hole. Oops. Take my needle off, and I'm just going to tie a very simple knot in the end of it, and this will give me something to hang this ornament on the tree from. And again, you could adjust this to whatever length you like. I'm just going to trim my tails. And so essentially there we have the ornament made. Now it's time to dress it up, so I'll be back in a second. So I embellished my star with a piece of old jewelry. I collect old jewelry bits, costume jewelry kind of thing, but you could put anything in the center that you like. And just for a little fun, I had this little elephant that came off a piece of cheap jewelry as well. So I just thought that makes it a very interesting looking little element. And to give it a little sparkle, you can see in the light on the tips, I just went over it with a wink of Stella, which is basically a glitter brush of color, or you could use iridescent medium, or you could just actually use glitter, or whatever you like. You can dress these up in any number of ways. And so you can see, here are my two stars ready to go. I think they look really nice. Lots of variety here in what kind of paper you use and what kind of embellishments you use on them as well. So I hope you enjoyed this short little tutorial on how to make Christmas decorations.